So in the last class we have seen for the rectangular cavity resonator what supposed to be the resonating frequency or cutoff frequency for the wave to propagate. Okay. So we have seen this is the expression. This expression has the contribution on the resonator dimension A, B and D. Okay. So these three will contribute on the resonating frequency. So the mode of propagation can be TE, M and P or TM, M and P. Okay. So for both TE and TM the resonant frequency is same in the rectangular cavity resonator. So let us check the field pattern. Field pattern means the different field component exist for a mode. So let us consider the most obvious and the most dominant mode for this rectangular cavity resonator. It is TE101 mode. Okay. So let us check the field components for TE101 mode. TE101 mode. So what does it mean? M is equals to 1, N is equals to 0 and P is equals to 1. So if it is TE, then we are supposed to have the HZ. If we are having the TE, that will tell us that it's supposed to have the HZ, means magnetic field is along the direction of propagation, because whole of the electric field is lying on the transverse plane. So what we have seen, HZ was, while deriving this expression we have seen, that is minus 2JD, D is a constant, cos pi x by A sin pi z by D. It doesn't have any y component. Now from this HZ we need to find out different field components. What are these? For TE waves, EX, we are writing with respect to TE wave. So it is minus j omega mu by h square del of hz by del of y. EY is j omega mu by h square del of hz by del of x. H of x, it is minus gamma by h square del hz by del of x, and hy, it is minus gamma by h square del of hz by del of y. So here this hz is same as this hz. So we need to put the value of hz on this 4 expression. So if we put the value of hz depending upon the derivation, what we will find, there will be no derivation exists with respect to y. Okay. So we are supposed to have the component with respect to x and z. So we can say we are having the components with respect to hx and with respect to ey only. So therefore hx, it results into twice jd gamma by h square minus pi by x sin pi by ax sin pi z by d, and ey, it is j omega mu by h square minus of twice jd minus of pi by a sin pi by ax sin pi z by d. Okay, so this is the field component exists for this dominant mode TE101 for the rectangular cavity resonator. So what will be the resonant frequency for this mode? Omega naught. It is, we didn't have anything along y, so we can write with respect to this A and D. We can write with respect to this A and D because n is 0. So it will be 1 by root over mu epsilon pi by A whole square plus pi by D whole square whole to the power half. So this is all about the rectangular cavity resonator. Any doubt, any question you can ask. So this is about the cavity resonator, the mostly used cavity resonator, that is rectangular cavity resonator. But while we have been studying this klystron, we have used another one. That one is known as reentrant cavity. So we will go with that. So before that, let us go with another topic of the klystron, that is called output power. How much power we can able to get at the output, that is from the catcher cavity of a klystron amplifier. Klystron amplifier. So for getting the output power, what we want the maximum bunching should occur, and that's supposed to reach the catcher cavity. That's supposed to reach the catcher cavity. For having the maximum power or maximum amplification from a klystron, we want maximum numbers of electron to takes place in the bunching, should appear in the bunch, and when they are been reaching at the catcher cavity, the maximum amount of power supposed to be delivered to the catcher cavity during the resonance. Okay, the maximum bunching should occur approximately midway between the catcher cavity grids Now the phase of the catcher gap voltage must be maintained in such a way that the bunched electrons as they pass through the grids, encounter a retarding phase. When the bunched electron beam passes through the retarding phase, its kinetic energy is transferred to the field of the catcher cavity. When the electron emerge from the catcher grids, they have reduced velocity and are finally collected by the collector. Okay, so what is the basic phenomenon? That is, when the bunching occurs in the drift length in the midway, and they have been formed the bunch and they have been arrived on the catcher cavity grids, should occur approximately midway between the catcher cavity grids. Now, when they have been arriving at the catcher cavity grids, the phase of the catcher gap must be maintained. So, phase of the catcher grids means due to the bunching electrons been arriving on that catcher cavity, the oscillation is created on the catcher cavity. Now, when the first oscillation has created, after that, when the further bunches are been arriving on the catcher cavity grids, it's supposed to arrive, it has been designed something like that, it's supposed to arrive at that time when the phase of the oscillation is able to give the retardation to those bunch electron, or it can able to produce the retarded deceleration, it can able to produce the deceleration to the arrived bunched electrons. So, first time when it has just started, so due to the electron bunch and the electrons other than the bunch, they will create a oscillation due to the resonating feature of that cavity due to the LNC. Now, after that, when it has been created, second time when other bunches will arrive, second time when they will arrive at the catcher cavity, the phase of that oscillation is maintained in such a way that the bunch electrons will face a retarding force. So, what will happen? The kinetic energy will be get transferred to the cavity from those electrons which have been on the bunches. Okay, so as a whole, the energy is transferred to the field of the catcher cavity and it has been collected, and those retarded electrons who has lost their energy, they have finally been collected by the collector. Okay, now we have already seen the expression for the induced current in the catcher cavity. The induced current in the catcher cavity What will be that? So how this current is induced? The current is induced by the electron beam in the walls of the catcher cavity, and it is directly proportional to the amplitude of the microwave input voltage V1, right? So this induced current in the catcher cavity is due to the electron beam in the walls of the catcher cavity, and it is directly proportional to the amplitude of the microwave input voltage V1. So the fundamental component of the induced microwave current, we have already derived that one. Therefore the fundamental component of the induced microwave current in the catcher cavity, that is I2 induced, it is beta naught I2, that is beta naught twice capital I naught J1x cos omega T2 minus tau minus capital T naught. So we know this beta naught is the beam coupling coefficient of the catcher gap. Now if the buncher and catcher cavities are identical, then this beta I is equals to beta naught. So what is this beta I? Beta I is the beam coupling coefficient of the buncher cavity or input cavity. So if these two are same, then this beta naught will be same as beta I. So if we considering the buncher and catcher cavity are identical, that is beta I is equals to beta naught, then we can further modify this expression. Therefore the fundamental component of current induced in the catcher cavity will have the magnitude I2 induced, it is the magnitude beta naught I2 is equals to beta naught twice I1 J1x. It is the magnitude of that fundamental component. Now we are getting some amplified output from the catcher cavity. So what does it mean? Some current has been coming from some input side and it produces some output at the output side. It produces some output at the output side. So what we can say that at the output side we are having a load over where the power is get dissipated. So we can think of something like that. We are having an output, let us consider it is RSH. The voltage around that load, it is V2, and some current which has been coming, that is beta naught I2. It is the current which is coming to this load and it produces some output. Okay. So this is the total output voltage of the cavity resonator, that is the catcher cavity. So we can consider this output power P out is equals to half I square R. So what is this I square? Beta naught I2 whole square, and this is RSH. Or we can write beta naught I2 V2 by 2. So what is this V2? V2 is the fundamental component of the catcher gap voltage. So what will be the efficiency of the klystron? This is the output. We can have the input. So what will be the efficiency? We can easily find out that one. Efficiency, it is P out by P in. So P out we have found, that is beta naught I2 V2 by 2. So P in is simply I naught V naught. Now if the coupling is perfect, beam coupling is perfect, that is maximum numbers of electrons have been coming into the picture for producing a bunch, that is beta naught is 1. If coupling is perfect, beta naught is equals to 1. The maximum beam current approaches I2 max is twice I naught 0.582. That is the I2 max. This current maximum can be written as like this, and V2 equal to V naught. The catcher cavity gap voltage is same as the buncher cavity gap voltage. Then the maximum efficiency is about 58% only. Maximum efficiency of this klystron is about 58%. So this is the I2 max. If the gap voltages of both the cavities are same, then we can find out the maximum efficiency is almost 58%. Next topic is the cavity which is been used on the klystron, that is known as re-entrant cavity. Re-entrant cavity, which is used on the klystron amplifier. Now, for a cavity resonator at microwave frequency, it is necessary that the inductance and capacitance have to be considerably reduced so that it maintains resonance at the operating frequency, right? Because we want the resonance to exist for the wave to propagate or to sustain inside that cavity resonator. Such a cavity resonator where the metallic boundaries will extend into the interior of the cavity are called re-entrant cavities. So what does it mean? We are having a cavity resonator if you do the cross section of that, so it will be look like this. What does it mean? From the center it is extended to the interior of that structure. Some metallic boundaries are extended towards the center of that structure. Means if you do the cross section, this portion and this portion has been taken out. There is nothing, no metallic part exists on this portion. So let us consider this length is D. Some corners we are representing as P, Q, R, S. This total length is twice B. This length is L, as well as this length is also L. This is twice A. So if we look onto this point, we can find out some input impedance at this side. We can also find some input impedance at this side. So what does it mean? Two impedances are connected in parallel. It is an example of re-entrant cavity. So what is that cavity? It is known as coaxial cavity. Coaxial cavity. It is an example of re-entrant cavity. So re-entrant cavity is similar to a coaxial line shorted at two ends. Coaxial line which is shorted at two ends and joined the center by a capacitor. Two ends are shorted. This end as well as this end, these are the two ends. This side, from this side it is one end, this is one end. So it is as the metal, continuous metal. Only this part and this part metal portion is absent. So these two ends are shorted and joined the center by capacitor. So this is the, you can find out, this is the capacitor action. This one plate and this one plate is having separated by some dielectric. So this dielectric may be air or some other dielectric material as well. So this center, this line as well as this line is joined by this metallic portion, and at the two ends they have been connected by a capacitor. At the center they have been shorted, but at this end and this end they have been connected by the capacitor. Okay. Such a re-entrant cavity can support an infinite number of resonant frequency. And hence it is useful in making Klystron devices. Now, in a re-entrant cavity, the inductance and capacitance are reduced, not capacitance, it is resistance. Because of this metal portion we can reduce the inductance as well as associated resistance. The inductance and resistance are reduced because of the hollow scoop within it. The coaxial cavity, this coaxial cavity may be considered as a coaxial line. And it is shorted at the two ends. What are those two ends? One is this PQ, and there is RS, and joined at the center by a capacitor. So we know for a coaxial cable or for a coaxial transmission line, the characteristic impedance is known. The characteristic impedance of the coaxial line is given by Z0 is equals to 1 by 2s pi root over mu by epsilon natural logarithm of b by a, half b and half a ohms. The input impedance at each shorted coaxial line from this side and from this side, the input impedance to each shorted coaxial line is given by Z in is equals to, it is shorted line, so we can have the short circuit termination, so it is JZ0 tan beta L by taking as perfect line, lossless line. L is the length of the coaxial line. L is the length of each of the coaxial line. So if we use this Z0 over here, this Z in will be J1 by 2s pi root over mu by epsilon ln b by a into tan beta L. Now the inductance of the cavity resonator, how we can found this inductance? That inductance can be found by taking two lines connected in parallel. So what is that? One side it is having the inductance for this length L, and the side it is also having the inductance for length L, that is j omega L is parallel to another j omega L. This X in, for this X in, by taking the parallel combination of j omega L as well as another j omega L. So it produces j omega L by 2. Okay. So the inductance of the cavity L, that will be twice X in by omega. We are not considering the phase, we are simply going with the magnitude. So this X in, it is the reactance, it is same as the impedance. This reactance, input reactance, it is same as the whatever the input impedance we have been considered due to this structure. So we simply put this X in, the value of this Z in. 1 by pi omega root over mu by epsilon natural logarithm b by a into tan beta L. And the capacitance of the gap, what will be this capacitance? This is about the inductance of this whole structure. What will be the capacitance? Cg, gap capacitance, it is pi S by D. What is this S? S is the area. So it is epsilon pi into a square by d. D is the separation of the two plates. There is the separation of the two plates. A is the area of radius of each of the gap. If we have been considering a circle, that is for the area, that is pi a square. So if we have been going with this continuous structure for this coaxial line, so cross section will be like a circle. So pi a square is the cross section area. So this is the gap capacitance of this reentrant cavity, where the metallic portions is absent to maximize the resonant frequency. So at resonance, the inductive reactance of the two shorted coaxial line is series and is equal to the magnitude of the capacitive reactance of the gap, right? At resonance, this inductance will be same as this capacitance. At resonance, the inductive reactance of the two shorted coaxial line is equal in magnitude to the capacitive reactance at the gap, that is omega L is equals to 1 by omega Cg, or we can write 1 by pi root over mu by epsilon natural logarithm of b by a tan beta L is same as d by omega epsilon pi a square. Okay, so what will be this tan beta L? It is coming out as d by omega a square 1 by mu epsilon into 1 by ln of b by a, or tan beta L, it is d into small v omega a square ln of b by a. What is this v? V is 1 by root over mu epsilon is the phase velocity in any medium. Okay, so if we are having this length L, then we can able to get the resonance inside that reentrant cavity. So if we have been going with this omega, we can also find out the resonating frequency of that coaxial cavity. And if we have been finding, if we are having the known resonant frequency, we can also find out the length for which this resonance will occur. Or opposite one, for this resonating frequency, what is supposed to be the length, we can also find out. Okay, so this is about the resonator which has been used in with the klystron amplifier. Next topic is the multi-cavity klystron amplifier. So you just go with that because I have already described that one. What will be the action of those intermediate cavities in the amplification? That is multi-cavity klystron amplifier. You people just go with this topic. It is same, only the bunches, the electrons in the bunches will be increased. The number of electrons will increase in the bunch as this velocity modulation will be higher and higher due to those intermediate cavity. That intermediate cavity will help to achieve higher bunching, so that the amplification is higher. You just go with this topic. So in the next topic, in next day, we'll start reflex klystron. One of the most advanced one, reflex klystron, where single cavity performs the job of both buncher cavity as well as catcher cavity.